Hi, and welcome to this new episode on the Singing Insiders podcast. I am very happy and grateful that you're here. Today, we have a very special guest. Her name is Momo. She goes by Momo Miyaguchi, and I hope I pronounced that right. Anyway, I have linked up all of her information in the show notes if you want to connect with her. But Momo, she and I connected during one of a conference that we were both attending in LA. And when I connected with her, it immediately clicked. And I knew that I had to have her on the podcast because she has so much to offer to you. And people that listen to this podcast are oftentimes passionate singers. Well, Momo, she's a singer as well. She had vocal training and she had yoga training. And so she blends those two worlds together beautifully. And that's the reason why I wanted to bring her on and have her share her story, her ways of working with you. And listening to the episode, you will notice that she has so much wisdom. So I tried to highlight some of the wisdom that I picked out. And I'm sure that when I re listen to this episode, I'm going to pick out other things. But it was so beautiful what she shared throughout this whole conversation. She's also sharing practical things. So I know at the end of our conversation, we're actually going through some yoga practices and exercises that help you in singing, specifically regarding breathing. And as we all know, the breath when singing is one of the most important elements to master. And many singers, they have that shallow breath, the chest breath, the stressy breath. We don't want to have that when we're singing. When we're singing, we want to be activating the diaphragmatic breath. And so Momo will share a few exercises from yoga that you can use and then apply into singing, which I thought was super valuable. So make sure you stay till the end. Make sure to connect with her on Instagram, on Facebook, and let us know how this conversation impacted you. We'd love to hear your feedback. You can connect with us on Instagram or send me an email, like whatever way works for you. But without any further ado, enjoy this beautiful, amazing, inspiring, magical conversation with Momo. Here we go. Hi, Maureen, and thank you so much for joining me on this very special episode of the Singing Insiders podcast. I am so grateful that you want to have this conversation with me because when we connected at that conference, I immediately felt that you had many things to share with the audience that I serve, which is singers. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate that.
Wow, thank you so much, Maggie. It's like a dream come true
Really?
to meet you, and because I have followed you for a little while. I didn't know you had the Singing Insiders podcast, otherwise I would have started listening to it earlier. And I'm really excited to talk about singing with you because there's so many things to talk about.
Yes.
So
And
yes, happy
the
celebration.
reason why I brought you in this conversation and here on the podcast really is because you have singing experience and you're a yoga teacher. And so that combination between yoga and singing is like, what do they say in America? Peanut butter and jelly, or like chocolate with ice cream for me. So, can you tell our listeners, maybe before we dive into that combo, a little bit about yourself, like who you are, how did you get to where you are, what has your journey been, and who do you work with? Like, what's your specialty? What's your spark?
Yeah, so my name's actually I call myself Momo Miyaguchi, even though I'm Maureen officially. So on my socials, you'll find me as Momo Miyaguchi. Momo is a surname from birth, and it means peach in Japanese, because
Oh,
I was born in Japan, but my mother's American Irish, and so I lived in Japan in Tokyo until I was 5, and then I grew up in Australia. That's why you might hear a bit of an Aussie accent. and I have been living in France for the last 20 years.
No way.
So, what has been my journey? It's been a long journey. I have always sung, I think,
Yeah.
as long as I can remember. And I think when I was about 6 or 7, that's when I realized that my voice was something really special.
Mm.
It was something important to me, and I still remember the sound of my voice vibrating in my body at that age. And after that, music education was part of my upbringing. I grew up in Tasmania, in Australia, so the island on the southeast of Australia.
Yeah.
And I had a very good primary school where there's a singing teacher that was here every week, had several lessons a week. So singing education was part of my primary education. And as I grew up, I performed I sang in choirs. And when I went to high school, I did musicals, as part of madrigal groups. Also, actually, my first instrument was the violin. So
Wow.
I played the violin for 9 years. I did youth orchestra. And at the end of my education, I guess when I finished high school and I was about to go to university, I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
So this is where the sacred comes into it, because I was very good at art. I was very good at music. This is always something very important in my life. But at the age of 17, I really felt very vulnerable, and I didn't want to be judged for something that was so sacred.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of ran away from that. I kept the sacred to me, and then I ran away. And I studied Japanese, actually, because I kind of want to reconnect with my Japanese heritage, and
Mm-hmm.
it was also an identity journey as well for me, as being half Japanese and then growing up elsewhere. So I studied Japanese and put all the music and the art to the side, saying that I can come back to that because I know how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was a bit of a cop out, I think. It was also because the part of the sacred is it's here, and when you want to express it, well, you open up your heart and you're very naked. And I think my life as a young adult, I felt very, very vulnerable, and I didn't feel strong enough to open up my heart
Mm-hmm.
and be judged on something that was so important for me.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that many singers struggle with, I think, in general. And so I hear you talking about that was a challenge for me to open up my heart and show that vulnerable space. I'm deviating a bit from, but I want to go into this because this is such an important topic. How is that now for you? Like, are you still struggling with that, or have you found the key to opening that up and being vulnerable and still enjoy your music and your singing?
I think there will always be that vulnerability, because I think it's like fear. If there are always elements that are part of performing. If you don't have that, then
Mm-hmm.
well, you can perform without. But there's also uh, that's always part of it, and I think we always have to work with it, because yeah, it's a little bit of a leap, a big leap,
Yes.
and there's danger. Uh,
Yes.
um, but I think on the other side, once you go through that, you get to the connection. You are able to connect, and this is where you have the communion with something greater than your ego. And so,
Mm-hmm.
so it takes that courage. I think we're going straight into maybe practice and things like that. This is where we prepare our bodies to go through this experience, so that we can keep a handle on our emotions, and kind of be there, be present for the meeting, be at the rendezvous
Yes.
with the universe, with other people, with your spectators.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we have to. This is the thing of being prepared, and I
Yeah.
think with yoga and singing training, it's trying to be ready as much as we can,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that we can never be completely ready, but mastering the breath, mastering the mind to a certain extent, or getting the mindset to be there, so we can actually go through the experience of opening ourselves up, being in the instant present. I mean, in French we say l'instant présent, being in the
In the
now.
now.
Yeah. So that we can go to another space. We can
Yeah.
go to another place, and the place is actually the now.
That is so beautiful. I want to unpack all of this. And j- I think I already mentioned at the beginning of our conversation that your uniqueness is blending those two worlds of singing and then yoga, and getting also that yoga mindset into the singing practice, which is, I think, a beautiful combination. And as you said, showing that vulnerability, that is one thing that I teach my singers, for examples that I work with. That's a way to connect with your listener. And that's exactly what you are talking to as well. However, being vulnerable is extremely difficult for many singers, especially like we all have, or many singers have the desire to be heard, to share their passion for singing with others, um, to tell their story. And that might be on a stage in front of an audience, it might be in a choir, it might be in a band, like however you embody that might differ for everyone, but everyone or most singers have that core desire of wanting to be heard. So when you think of that singer with that desire, but then also the fear of being vulnerable and showing their authentic self, what would be maybe a piece of advice or like a first step that you would give that person into growing into that authenticity?
The first step.
Or a step. Maybe it's not the first step, but what would your,
Yeah, let's
because obviously you are there, you are at the other side of that struggle. So how do you do it? Like, what can they learn from you?
uh, I think you're always rewriting your story.
Uh-huh.
So I guess maybe coming back to this, the sacred.
Mm-hmm.
The sacred is that we all have our sound to share. We all have our voice,
Mm-hmm.
and each voice is as unique as your fingerprint. So it doesn't have to be a sung voice. It doesn't have to be. It's just your body in the now, vibrating in this time and space.
Mm-hmm.
And each person is unique. Humans are all about stories, and so we want to hear everybody's stories. We want to tell our stories. That's from ancient times. That's what it is. And so I think we have to remember, especially as singers, that first there is your voice, and first is you speaking your truth into the world. And I think we need to really anchor ourselves in that. And often we get caught up in the how
Yeah.
to do that. And so I think we have to keep coming back to, the just being, and how much just us being incarnated is important. So we have to anchor ourselves into this truth that we're here, we're in a body incarnated in a time and a space, and that is unique. And so each person has the capacity to speak. And so it doesn't matter how you speak, doesn't matter how you express yourself. This is your truth in the here and now, and we have to keep coming back to that and valuing it. And so it's something about self value. You have to really value yourself and not worry about how you deliver your message, or even the message.
Ah, interesting. Yeah. I want to
Yeah.
highlight what you said because I think that's an important takeaway for our listeners. It's not necessarily about figuring out the how, but about being and
Mm.
embodying all of that is so beautiful and so powerful, because figuring out the how is like our brain doing the work in our logical side, And the being is where we really embody the whole process. Thank you for sharing that.
So it's easier said than done.
That is
It's,
definitely the case, yes.
but I think that's why we're here.
Hmm.
And this is why we have a practice. This is why we work on releasing the belly to breathe in, and maybe breathing out from the perineum up,
Yeah.
and making all these habits, anchoring all the habits that we have in our body, so that we can get the best resonance we can. But even if it's not, we're not showing the best of ourselves, we're there au rendezvous to meet this time in the space, maybe the performance space, where we actually give ourselves to the moment and to the people that are listening. Or maybe it's not people, maybe they're maybe they're cows. Cows are great listeners. Maybe it's the landscape. Maybe
Yeah.
you're just singing to a field. Listen when you sing in nature. Nature's coming, nature's listening and will sing back to you. I mean, this is also why I live in the countryside, but we don't have to, be singing on a stage.
Hmm. Well, I love what you're bringing up because going and sing in front of cows or trees could be one form of a stage for someone. And I love what you say, nature is listening, nature is singing back to you. What is a practice that you do to embody all of those things? Because as we said, it's hard. It's easier said than done, right? So what is one of your like practices or strategies to embody that and get to that place?
I think singing simply
Mm-hmm.
and enjoying your body and voice vibrating. So I'm always humming and singing, and it's very easy for me to improvise. And I don't use, depends on how I feel, but I don't use my whole range, but I
Mm-hmm.
just use the sounds. Maybe it's like mantras in yoga, the amplitude of the notes aren't very, very wide,
Mm-hmm.
but that means we can sing simply and really concentrate on just the body vibrating, the voice vibrating, and just feeling that and being with one with that, and letting that be enough. Because I think when we want to be performers, we have so much in our heads of the bright lights, the big
Yes.
stage. And often when I speak to my students, I say we're often admiring people on stage. We're often listening to a finished product, and
Mm-hmm.
it is a product and it is finished.
Mm-hmm.
But what should interest us is the journey, the process, and really understand that it is a process, and where it's like when you draw, you're doing a kind of, sometimes you do a sketch,
Yeah.
and then okay, you've got the sketch down, and then you kind of, it depends on your process, then maybe you've got, okay, I'll just reinforce the main lines, or
Yeah.
maybe you'll start a whole nother painting, using the sketch, and say, and then it sort of becomes a finished work, and then you present
Mm-hmm.
it. And so often our students are looking at the finished product of music or entertainment industry,
Yeah.
a performance on stage, and going, I want to do that, and why can't I do that? And without realizing there's a whole process that's behind it, and you're listening to the finished product, but you need to find your journey, and there'll be lots of sketches along the way. There might be sketches that won't be finished. It's okay. Enjoy sketching. Um, but
I
I think
love
it's,
that metaphor. Yeah.
and I think we have so much material in our brain, like just saying, okay, but I want to be a singer, but they're on this stage, and I'm here, and I'm not enough. And
Mm-hmm.
we need to generate our inspiration so that these works are coming out of us, and we don't know what form it's going to take, because I'm a performer, so I went off and had a lot of detours in my life, and one of them was becoming a flying trapeze artist when I came to France.
Oh my
Um,
God.
and it was easier for me to become a flying trapeze artist, and I even broke my neck. I almost died.
Oh my God.
It was easier for me to do that than actually bare my soul and sing.
Mhm.
So um, just so I'm saying that because you never know what form your expression is going to take. And so if you're set on saying, I want to be like so and so, maybe you're going past all these talents that you have. Maybe you're a good writer, maybe you paint, maybe your maybe your art is going to be a kind of a multifaceted thing that doesn't fit into this box. And so
Mhm,
I
mhm.
think we have to keep our ears, our heart, our eyes open to all those possibilities, and maybe trying to get to the place where we're generating like inspiration, generating, maybe we're writing, being excited about life and expressing it.
There are so many things that you have just shared that really stick to me, and the first one is being, and maybe people have missed it. That's why I want to highlight it. The first one being you have to feel the singing. It's something that you said at the beginning of this. And that is such a beautiful thing because oftentimes as singers we're listening to the sound and then judging the sound, and then you said, well, it has to feel the vibrations and it has to feel good, and that has to be enough. And I think if we start focusing on that, then the sound will automatically follow, which is beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing that piece of wisdom. And also your example of the trapeze artist, it just shows how how hard, I want to say, it is what we're doing, but how beautiful it is because it is so challenging for some, it is so rewardful and fulfilling for all of us. So I know you have this concept called the performer's sacred place. Tell me more about that. Like, what is it? How can we utilize it? What does it help us do? Can you give us an idea around that?
Well, it's not a solidified concept yet.
Uh-huh.
I think as I was speaking earlier, we have to kind of go through this flaming hoop of fear, um, and get to this space,
Mhm.
where we're um, we're in the now. And it may be just by ourselves, but it may be sharing with other people or other places or things. And so that brings you into the present.
Mhm.
The other sacred thing about us as singers is our voice, of course. It's
Yeah.
obvious, but the voice has the power over other humans and other things because we generate frequency, we generate vibration, and this power is actually circumvents, our analytical mind, and it takes us directly to our emotions and also to something even deeper. It takes us to spirit.
Mhm.
And so we circumvent all the stuff in our brain. And so when we are in our heart and when we are anchored in ourselves, that will be received by the listener or by the space around us even. So it means we will be vibrating in a way that's really in, oh gosh, it's juste. What do you call it in French? It's French is juste. It's
Like, right?
it's it's right. It's
It's
yeah,
just, it's,
yeah. It's when it's in tune. When we sometimes in French you say juste is in tune.
yeah, in
um,
tune, on pitch,
on pitch, yeah. So, but it's in on pitch in a vibratory kind of way. Yeah, you're
on
aligned.
vibration.
You're in vibration or you're aligned.
Okay, aligned. Yeah, that's a nice word. Beautiful.
uh, and so this can allow your heart to speak to other hearts, your soul to speak to other souls, and it means you create a new space and time. And
Mm.
so this is what we are capable of doing when we perform. So we go beyond our condition as a person, as one person separated, and we come into a communion. So that's the sacred space. Maybe you want to kind of keep me on track so I
Well, I
can.
love this idea of the sacred space because if you're a singer and you, for example, we take the example of performing on stage. If you go and perform on stage with that intention of saying, this is my sacred space, this is where I get to connect with my listener, this is where we come in that communion, that is a whole different mindset than going on stage with all of those pressurized thoughts of it needs to be perfect. I'm not allowed to make a mistake. What if I forget my lyrics? Like how you will show up on that stage will be very different. And so I think what you shared is a beautiful way to connect to that authentic self in one way and how to perform it, like how to be in that communion at that point, the mindset on how you do those things. And that goes back to the being that you talked about earlier. Instead of figuring out the how, it's about being it right now. I think this is where all the little puzzle pieces start to connect. So, yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Maggie.
Of course. I am listening with so much awe, like you have so much wisdom and knowledge to share, and I really appreciate that you're being so generous.
Oh, thank you.
So,
Uh,
you are a yoga teacher as well, right? What are some yoga practices that you take with you in your vocal practice? Like, what is the, because they both really complement each other.
yes.
What could be like, how does that look like for you?
Yeah, sure. Well, I guess just to qualify, I'm a yoga teacher, but because I am still a physical performer as well. Yoga is a great, um, it's it's a vast universe. You have many lives to actually
Yeah.
talk about yoga, but it's one resource that we have. So there are other resources. So maybe you don't have to be a yogi. You don't have to do yoga. It's good to have all sorts of body work practices. So because yeah, as a singer, you need to be connected to your body. I don't think there's a way around it.
Hmm.
I mean, there are other approaches, but in terms of if we're talking about the communion, the connection, yeah, we need to be connected with the body and the breath.
Yes.
So, the main ingredients. So yes, yoga is a great way of doing it. But as I said, any other body or body mind practices
Hmm.
are great. So I'll come back to my 2017. I did a teacher training with Janice Chapman in the UK,
Yeah.
around the sort of a holistic approach to classical singing. And in the same year, I did my postnatal yoga teacher training in the Institut de Gasquet in France. And so this institution was created by Dr. Bernadette de Gasquet, who's a woman who brought prenatal yoga into the hospitals in France from the 1970s. So this is kind of going off track a little bit, but
No, no,
this
we're
was the
still on track because we're talking
okay.
about your journey, but I love how your journey allows us to dive deeper into certain topics. So keep going.
Okay. So this year was great because I did these two teacher trainings, and when Janice Chapman was talking about the connecting the transverse abdominals for the exhale, and I mean, of course in more detail, but it was the same basic kind of the basis. The base was the same as what I learned in my pre-postnatal yoga teacher training. And so Bernadette de Gasquet, her institute, it's not just pre-postnatal, but she works with sports people as well. So it's really connecting the perineum with the breath.
Mhm.
That's a great that was been a great help for me to apply and this work with the spine. I think
Yeah, yeah.
that is kind of particular to this method. So how could I simplify? Um, the body work to go with the voice in a way that in a succinct way. But if we go to the perineum directly, go to the heart of the matter.
Sure. Yeah.
So out breath is really important. You know, we've got to, and so Bernadette de Gasquet suggests breathing out first instead of breathing in.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So emptying before you fill.
Okay.
Yeah, and which will then kind of circumvent things like when you breathe in and you think you don't have enough, so you go, and you've got too much breath. Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah,
then
and then chest breathing.
yes.
So I think if we breathe out first, empty, and then that allows you to release the belly and breathe in. Yeah.
And then
So
get filled up automatically.
get filled up automatically. Yeah.
That's a great exercise to try out.
So yeah, I think maybe I think, you know, if one of the battles for new singers is that the belly release.
Mhm.
I mean, Janice Chapman calls it splat. Singers, please loosen abdominal tension.
Ah! Yeah, because
So
most women they want to have a flat belly. I teach that too. And then because they want to have that flat belly, they tense up their abdominal muscles and then the breath is really high up. And so
yes,
letting that loose allows us to activate that diaphragmatic breathing. And that's what yoga does too. Is that how we can overlap the two as well?
so this yeah, my angle on this yoga, yes, because it's things like Ashtanga yoga. Sometimes it's taught with, you know, you have the bandhas, which are the yeah, the, what do you call it, the locks basically, and you're kind of, you know, bringing the abdomen is quite engaged in certain
Yes.
practices.
Yes.
So yeah, so my angle on my yoga practice is, yes, releasing the belly. However, you are activating your abdominals at the right time, so it's on the out breath. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you're emptying from the bottom up. Yeah, so I guess for belly release would be, yeah, you can work on all fours, and so then you have gravity working
Right.
in your favor, or you might just put your hands on a wall and lean over, and then have a hand on your belly, breathe
Yeah.
out, and then release the belly
Yeah.
with the mouth open, because we're singers, we breathe in from the mouth to be able to sing. Yeah.
You're sharing so many beautiful things. I really hope our listeners will try those things out. So, the first one was starting with an out breath so that the belly automatically fills up again instead
Yeah.
of going to the upper chest breathing. Then on
Yes.
all fours so that we have the gravity working, or with the wall, as you
Yes.
said. I think
Yeah.
those two things are already amazing things to try out. And so, would it be, if someone wants to practice this, would it be an idea to take, for example, the chorus of a song and then do a sentence, and every time there's breath, like really noticing where that breath is in the body, and then using the wall or the all fours? Or how would you translate that into a song, for example?
Yeah, I would first of all do it without the voice.
Mm-hmm.
Do it without the song, because as soon as we add layers, then it's hard to do everything at once. So
Right.
I would focus just first of all with the air, leaning hands on the wall, have
Yeah.
one hand on your lower belly to just feel what it's doing, and
Okay.
then empty, breathe out, and then try and release as much as possible the belly with the mouth open.
With the mouth open. Right. Because we're singing through there.
Yeah, but do it with your nose first, just whatever works. If you have a hard time with your belly, as often we do as adults, we're always
Mhm.
we're breathing in, and then we're hunching over to breathe out, emptying, and yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have enough time to talk about this, but
We
um,
talk for hours and hours, but yes,
yeah,
continue.
yeah. So that's something to do. Otherwise, I also do the laughing exercise.
Laughing
The
exercise. Tell me
laughing
about that one.
exercise. Okay, it's the forced laugh, and you're going to have your hand on your lower belly. Let's see.
Okay.
Oh, it's not going to hang on. I've got to stop my camera.
Oh yeah, because the camera is following you.
Yeah, otherwise my camera's going to follow me. Okay. And so, yeah, you have to have your hand on the lower belly just over the pubic bone, and
Yeah.
then just put a hand on your waist. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you're going to just try and laugh, like kind of forced. And if you do this in a group, it's great because everyone's going, what the heck is she doing?
You know,
But
just as a side note, I once did laughing yoga, and for an
oh,
hour
cool.
we forced ourselves to laugh. But
An
it's so,
hour.
yeah, it was an hour and a half, the whole class. But you start to actually laugh because it gets really funny. And yeah,
It
so
is.
side note.
Yeah, no, well, we're humans. We're cabled. Like we're our circuits, and as soon as someone else does a bit of laughing, then it just kind of comes naturally.
Exactly.
And so what's amazing? So first of all, you laugh. What's happening to your hands? Oh, the belly's coming in. Hey. And so
Okay.
for all the people that are afraid of letting their belly hang out, hey, what's going on? Hey, I'm getting thinner. I'm getting
Uh-huh.
I'm getting more svelte. And then after, when we stop laughing, that's where the magic happens. Oh my goodness, the belly's releasing.
Mm.
It releases naturally. So it's so easy. We know how to do that already.
Yes, you're right. It is
Yeah,
releasing.
and so that's the magic. How exciting, the belly is just releasing all by itself. And so
Uh-huh.
one of my exercises is asking my students to like laugh like 3 to 5 times. And then your belly, the belly is releasing just naturally. Yeah.
Yes, I love the natural approach because there's so many things that already happen naturally in our body, but that we don't link necessarily to singing. And I think that's a nice thing that you shared with us. You have been so generous in sharing all those exercises and all that wisdom. And I know we can keep talking for hours, but I want to be mindful of your time as well. Before we wrap up this episode and before you tell people where they can connect with you, is there any other last piece of knowledge, wisdom, advice, or anything that you say we haven't talked about that, but that you really want to share with the singers listening to this? Is there anything else you would like to add to this conversation?
Mm. uh,
We've covered it all.
I think we've covered it most of all, but I think it's like we're in this for the long term. And I would just like to reinforce the fact that, when you're learning something, when you have desires and ambitions, we really want everything now.
Mhm.
And we put a lot of pressure on ourselves you know, to learn quickly and have this kind of exponential line. And I say this for myself as well, because I am on this learning path as much as anybody else, uh, to enjoy the journey and really be kind and realize how important it is to just keep enjoying who you are and being incarnated, being here and being alive. And uh, so take care of yourself, take care of your body, take care of your heart, take care of your spirit, um, and just and give yourself lots of pats on the back for whatever efforts that you are doing to go from point A to point B, which will keep moving.
Yes.
Because you'll get to point B, but then you'll see, oh my point B has actually
Has
gone
become
over
point
there.
C.
It's the rainbow. We're chasing the end of the rainbow.
Yeah.
So I think it's the valuing the path that that you are on, the person that you are, how important it is, and how important it is for you to keep working on the balance of being happy as a person, happy as a singer, and being ready to give and receive.
Beautiful words. Thank you so much for sharing that. I hope our listeners have grasped all of this. And I really invite them to listen to this episode twice because you've shared so many things that are
Yeah.
that need to be absorbed into our being. So Thank you for being so generous with that. Where can people connect with you if they want to get in touch or work with you, or like where can they find you?
Yeah, sure. Well, I will give you my details. So to put in the show notes,
Yes.
because I am changing platforms. So I am on Instagram. I'm Momo underscore Miyaguchi. So the better that goes into the link because Miyaguchi is a bit hard to spell. So Momo underscore Miyaguchi underscore Taika, which is my yeah, the name of all my activities, which means the singing body in Japanese.
Oh, beautiful. I
So
like
I'm
that.
on Instagram and I'm also on Facebook.
Beautiful. I will link to all of that in the description and in the show notes. So again, can I say then Momo to you instead of Maureen?
Yeah, that's what I prefer.
Yes. Okay,
It's,
well, thank you
yeah.
so much, Momo, for having been here today, for having this conversation, and for sharing so authentically. I really appreciate all of that. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Maggie. Thank you for your listeners for listening to me because it did go kind of, it sort of weaved its way around. It wasn't a straight road.
That's
But
fine.
yes, really, thank you so much for having me on your show. Thank you for your listeners, and yeah, just keep the good vibes coming out of your mouth and your heart.
No, same to you. Same to you. Thank you.